and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Icon, and we're back with a little something different, a little something new for you. This time it's a Netflix review, and I'm starting something new where I'm gonna review, as we always do, we review these TV shows and these movies, but every so often there's going to be a TV show that I'm going to watch, that I'm going to review, and I'm not necessarily going to review it episode by episode. More so, like, after I watch it, I'm just going to do one quick review, about the entire season, and at the end of the review, I'm going to tell you whether or not we're going to do a little thing called yay, nay, or okay, where I'd say, where after I review it, I tell you, do we give it a yay, do we give it a nay, or is it just okay? So to kick this one off, because this is what to watch with your boy Icon. So what to watch? The first one right out the gate is a Netflix series called Against the Ropes, and it is, first impression, it was very interesting. Like, when I read it, and we're going to spoil the hell out of this, by the way, spoilers upon spoilers upon spoilers. But the series, it's interesting in the fact that it is a WWE backed production, because there are a lot of WWE references for all you wrestling fans out there. And it's about a girl who, she has a child and she was with a guy. She got locked up for a crime that she didn't commit, something related to like drugs or whatever. She spent 3 years in prison, and then, for a crime that she didn't commit. And it sounds like the A-Team. And then when she came out of prison, she's trying to like get back into her life. But then when she gets out of prison, she finds out that her now ex-boyfriend is dating some new girl, and he kind of has custody of his daughter, because both him and the grandma, they were taking care of the daughter while the mom was in prison. The mom's name is Angela, and now Angela's back. She wants to see her daughter and and rekindle the 3 years that she lost with her daughter. The problem is, because 3 years have gone by, her daughter never came to visit her in prison, and her daughter actually doesn't really want to have anything to do with her per se, because the family that Angela comes from, she comes from a wrestling family. Like, her father was a wrestler, her mother was a wrestler, like her godmother was a wrestler. So there's a deep, like, well, lucha, as they say down in Mexico. So like the Mexican wrestling scene, like the lucha wrestling, like it's very big in their family. But there was an issue where her father, Angela's father, was actually one of the top wrestlers in Mexico. But he lost a match one day and suffered the ultimate shame that a luchador suffers whenever, they lose a match. He got his mask removed from him, and he's disgraced. And then, because of the shame that was brought upon the family basically, like shut out wrestling from their lives, and they never spoke the W word ever again. The problem now is the daughter, like Angela's daughter, she's a huge wrestling fan. It's in her blood, it's in her DNA. She loves wrestling, she loves lucha. She sneaks out and she goes to wrestling matches. Her father actually works for a wrestling promotion, and her father is dating one of the top female wrestlers in the company, a luchador, a female, wrestler named Candy. Candy now, and I'm gonna say this, and I mean this in the most like endearing way possible. Like, Candy is a total bitch. And it's like entertaining as hell, because she has like this high and mighty, like stuck up attitude, and she literally took this child, and she unintentionally like adopted the kid as her own, to the point where she thinks that's her child. But now the actual mom is back from prison, and that's going to cause a little conflict. So when the mom finally sees her daughter, the daughter's at one of the wrestling matches, and then she gets introduced to Candy. Then she sees like her ex-boyfriend again, and then there's this whole drama. The girlfriend and the mom do not like each other. So, because she's just like, oh, you're the bitch, that tried to take my daughter for me. And then she's just like, oh, you're the deadbeat that left this poor child alone. So there's a lot of like back and forth. But the child herself, like the kid, doesn't want to have anything to do with her mom. Like, she hates her mom. She never actually said why. Like, there was never really like a conversation where she was just like, I hate you because. It's like, it almost came across like she was just being a brat, and it was just like, oh, I didn't know you for 3 years, so to hell with you. Well, obviously, like, as a mother, like, she's trying every single thing in her power to try to like forge a relationship with her daughter. So what she does, since she finds out that her daughter is a huge wrestling fan, she ends up putting on a mask and creating a wrestling persona, and she trains to become a professional wrestler or a luchador, just to have a relationship with her daughter and gain, like the admiration of her child. The wrestling name that she chooses for herself is called Bride in Black. She's the bride in black. She comes out with an all black outfit, with a veil, with a marital veil and everything. She has 3 or 4 friends with her who are her bridesmaids. So she got like this whole posse. They train together, like they wrestle together. So they're wrestling all over the city, doing all this crazy stuff. She ends up bumping into her daughter at one of the wrestling shows. Obviously, the daughter doesn't know it's her. And the wrestler bride in black ends up forming a relationship with the child, and she ends up building a relationship because the daughter actually looked up to her because she was like, oh, she's a really cool wrestler, she's a new wrestler on the scene. And she talked to her a lot, like she kind of like took her unintentionally like under her wing, like mentored her a little bit, so she was able to have a relationship with her daughter, but not as herself, but as the wrestler bride in black, and she has the mask on. So now obviously a lot of things happen here. One thing that I will say is hilarious about the show, because it took place obviously in Spanish. And you can tell that when the show first aired, it aired in Spanish. But because it got brought to the US and because it's on Netflix, they had to do English dubs. And it just makes me chuckle because if you're someone that grew up with that, like if you grew up, watching, like Spanish TV, Spanish soap operas, Telemundo, like telenovelas, like you're used to that sort of thing, and to you, like it's just like it's business as usual, it's the culture. But for somebody that's not really used to that, like the dub voices, it might throw you off a little bit, but I felt like it made it a little bit more entertaining too, because the English actors were, in my opinion, just being a little over the top with some of the dialogue because they were trying to like match the mannerisms of the Spanish actors. So it was one of those things where it's like, I thought it was very cheesy, but it was also entertaining and I couldn't look away. So finally, what it all boils down to, there is a thing where we find out that in the end, after Angela, ends up, becoming like a somewhat popular wrestler amongst everybody in town, this is where the WWE comes in, because her father, who we thought, who they thought was dead, who was basically exiled after he got his mask removed, you find out that her father works for the WWE. And both he and Rey Mysterio, like good old Rey Mysterio, they come to the town where everything's happening because they heard about this bride in black and they want to scout new talent for the WWE. They legitimately said WWE, like they mentioned WWE a bunch of times. They mentioned Rey Mysterio. They mentioned other wrestlers by name. And to me, I was just like, WWE has to be backing this and they have to be producing this. Otherwise, they wouldn't be allowed to say their name as much as they did. There was even a moment where her father, under his lucha mask, invited the bride in black to train at the WWE Performance Center, and they actually had the WWE Performance Center banner up, which I thought was really cool. So finally, what this all comes down to in the end, in the season, because it's a 10-episode series, in the season finale, we get the final match between the bride in black and between Candy. The two of them have been beefing with each other, as their non-wrestling characters and as their wrestling characters throughout the entire series. And this is where like the wrestling aspect comes in at, because, when they're about to have like the big championship match, because, Candy's the champion, it was a 2 out of 3 falls match where the winner was not like, the winner was going to get a WWE tryout contract and, along with having the title, and the loser was going to get disgraced and have their mask removed in front of a live studio audience. Right before the match, this is where we get the cameo, where we actually get Rey Mysterio from the WWE, who was there. He spoke to Angela and had a nice pep talk with her before she goes out and has her match. The funny thing about that is, just like with everything else, Rey Mysterio was also, his voice was dubbed, and I'm telling you, it was actually Rey Mysterio. It was the Rey Mysterio. It was the Rey Mysterio Jr., the 619. Funny thing is, he himself was voiced over by an English voice actor, and that was completely hilarious to me because I'm like, this dude actually speaks English. He could have did his own voiceover. But he's in the back, he's having a conversation with Angela, he wishes her good luck, and Rey Mysterio himself, he's actually there to watch the final confrontation between Candy and Angela for the love of, the daughter. So the two of them are having a match. Candy wins the first fall, Bride in Black, she ends up winning the second fall, and then it comes down to the third and final fall. Now, Candy, towards the end of the series, she was so concerned with wanting to get the WWE contract, and she was so concerned with not losing, and not losing her championship or losing her mask. She ended up pairing up with like this sleazy manager trainer guy, because like in wrestling, you got to have a heel manager if you're going to be a bad guy. Because by the end, Candy was already a bitch throughout the entire series, but she was clearly the heel in this entire wrestling match. Because here's where the sports entertainment comes in at. Because like towards the end, the bride in black, she mounted a comeback, like against Candy, and the fans were rooting for her and the fans were cheering her on. She pulled off her finishing maneuver at the end that she learned from her father. And then after she pulled off, her finishing maneuver, then she had Candy in a pinning position, but Candy's cheesy cheating manager slash trainer, when the referee's back was turned, had, I guess, rolled her over. So if Bryden Black has her on top in a pinning position, he pushed her over so where Candy was now on top of Bryden Black. And then I believe he held Bryden Black down as the referee counted 3. And then she cheated to win in front of a live studio audience, which I thought was hilarious because this is something pulled right out of the pages of actual wrestling. But then, but after that, and I was surprised because I thought Rey Mysterio was, because it's Rey Mysterio. Like, he's like the king of like Mexican wrestling. He's like the greatest, like Mexican wrestler of all time. Like he is lucha, in the minds and eyes of everybody. Everybody saw Candy cheat to win this match. I thought Rey Mysterio was going to come to the ring and be like, no, she cheated. Let's restart the match. But no, he just sat there and didn't do nothing. He didn't do anything. And the referee, referee's decision is final in wrestling. And they awarded Candy the winner of the match, although she cheated. Now comes the moment of truth, the moment of shame, if you will, where the luchador gets her mask removed. And obviously in this moment, Angela, she's devastated because the whole entire series, she forged a relationship with her daughter as the Bryden Black, the wrestler. And now that she's about to get her mask removed because her daughter was sitting in the audience along with her mama, because they were sitting in the audience, she was just like, oh, like I'm about to get exposed. And then even Candy, because Candy had figured out that Angela was the Bryden Black. And then she even said to her right before she took her mask off, she was like, you're ready to lose your family, bitch. And I was just like, really? If I'm Rey Mysterio, I'm like, yo, we need to bring Angela into the Performance Center because the fans are clearly behind her and we can make money off somebody who's popular. And thank you for tuning in. And I thought it was a nice ending because it was set up to make you think this woman was going to get like ridiculed and like dragged out, like shamed in the street. And it ended up being the complete opposite, where she ended up being like appreciated and revered and cheered by everybody all, like all throughout Mexico, whatever town they were in. And it does open things up for a season 2 if they want to do a season 2, because we can always go back to the relationship between Angela and her father, who's back in town. We can go forward with Candy's character to find out what happened when she got the WWE tryout. And then now that the daughter knows her mom is a professional wrestler and the daughter loves professional wrestling, is a new relationship going to form there? The two of them going to get along? But the fact that we know that the daughter accepted her at the very end, if we don't get a follow-up season, I'm okay with that as well, because we actually got closure for the family relationship. So it was one of those endings where you were good either way. Would I like to see a season 2? Of course. My rating for this, we're going to give it a yay, a nay, or okay. For this one, I say the yay. Like, this is a good one, and I think you should all check it out, especially if you're a wrestling fan. Like, if you're someone who's a fan, again, of the traditional, like old school, like Spanish television, then I think you would really enjoy it, because it does have a lot of like cultural aspects of it. It's something that you can relate to. But if you're someone that likes wrestling, like if you're like a WWE wrestling fan, you'll get a kick out of it too, because of the wrestling elements of it, the fact that WWE wrestlers show up. And if you're just someone that just wants something cool and interesting to watch, like it's something cool and interesting to watch too. There are obviously more storylines with different characters, but we're not going to go over everything because it's 10 episodes, but you should definitely check it out. So that was my that was my review for Against the Ropes, and here's hoping for a season 2. So we have some other things coming up in the woodworks, because there were definitely other series and other shows that I did watch. We'll roll them out as best we can, to give you guys like the insight on what's good, what's bad, and what's in between. So thank you for tuning in as always. Check out my other reviews, because The Flash is still going strong on the channel, and we're still waiting for the Doom Patrol. We're still waiting for Titans. Check me out on Twitter and or Instagram. Until next time, for the next review, I got my eye on you, and we're out this